Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my new podcast, affectionately called Human. Now, Human is a lifestyle podcast where I will cover everything from one of my favorite topics. Yes, you guessed it, all things HR, benefits, payroll, compensation, some HRIS, training, recruiting, even mental and physical and financial well-being, corporate America, entrepreneurship, consulting, career and executive coaching, mentorships, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how to unplug and even prevent burnout. I even am going to be touching on some event planning and much, much more. We also can't forget about my give back to HR. My book, HR, Where's Your Freaking Sense of Humor? I am inviting you to join me in studio virtually or depending on the topic, along with some of my freaking amazing guests. So, now before we get started with our interview today, let me take a few quick moments and share the big why behind my podcast and even my bigger ask. You see, this is my give back to the community that gave to me. My objective is to put into the HR community so that you, the community, can continue to pour into other incredible humans. And the cherry on top is that some freaking amazing humans, like our guest today, and our lifelong friends from around the world will be poured into as well. So, what is my big ask? You guessed it. Please click, like, share, and subscribe to all my socials, which will be shared during my podcast. All right now. So now that we have the important housekeeping done, please join me in welcoming my freaking amazing guest, Njsane Courteny, better known as your friend in HR. Now, you may recall that Njsane joined me on my very first episode of Human to help me commemorate my podcast debut. I also shared we had just known each other 10 days prior, and that is when we start talking, and it felt like we had known each other for 10 years. Well, now that we're officially 120 plus days into our Fellowship of the Ring, we are coming to you live from the Human Studios to talk shop on both our favorite topics. Yep, again, you guessed it, all things human. So, Njsane, welcome to our podcast, me and you, entitled HR for the People. Welcome.
Thanks, Kara. I really appreciate it. It's great being here. Wow, I'm already amazed at the stuff you've already done. The studio has been great. The staff has been great. I appreciate the invite.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Now, one of the things that I want to do is make sure that we get a whole bunch of meat off the bone. They say there's meat on the bone. We're going to get some meat off the bone.
All right.
So we are going to jump in and I'm going to ask you some questions for my audience. I'm so glad that you're here with us today and you could make the trip. So for all those other people out there in the studio audience, you know, please, 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 this is the man to watch. So here we go. We ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Now, you know I'm a woman of certain age, so we're going to have to put these cheaters on, definitely. All right. So let me start out by saying, so now in my book, HR, Where's Your Freaking Sense of Humor? I always ask the burning question. Did you choose HR or did HR choose you? Now, here I need you to answer that question, but I also want you to share with my audience about how you caught that HR bug.
I don't know. I don't know anyone who woke up one morning as an 8-year-old and said, "Mommy, I want to be an HR professional." I don't know anyone. But I got my start actually in the military. I worked for personnel, orders, promotions, demotions,
right.
That kind of administration. And so once I got out of the military, I stuck with it through the civilian sector. And so I just kind of stuck with the whole thing because, I enjoyed working with people. I enjoyed training people. And I had some mentors who told me, says, "Man, you ought to just stick with what you're good at and
That's right.
do human resources and on the civilian side." So that's what I stuck with. So I wouldn't say the bug bit me. I've always had that bug, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
But I've enjoyed the journey all 22 years.
Very good, very good. And y'all noticed that Njsane said personnel. Because, that's old school, right? That
Very old
takes you
school.
back. But it also, from a military standpoint, for those individuals looking to make that transition, it's a very interesting transition to make. And that's one of those items where they grow accustomed to using those terms. But I'm glad that people encouraged you along the way to stick with what you were good at, which means you were always committed to humans and people.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for sharing that. So my next question is, your podcast, My Friend in HR, aims to make HR accessible to everyone. Can you share when the idea of your podcast was born and the moment you realized the importance of demystifying HR for everyday employees, which is really commendable?
So one of those things that you really want to do as a human resources professional is make yourself accessible. And that's just not always the case in a lot of organizations. And how much better would everybody's career be if they weren't always afraid to go to HR? Promotions, demotions, terminations. Yeah, those are the things that we have to do. We do have to deal with some what I would call suboptimal situations. But really the heart of human resources is about making the most out of an organization's human capital. And so how do you do that? Career fulfillment. How do you guide people through their path of their career journey? They should be able to go to HR and get those tools because we're the ones most equipped to provide that advice. And so, as I've gone through my career, you see these little situations where people just don't know certain things. That's right. If you're not in certain meetings, if you're not part of certain discussions, you don't know that you can negotiate for an offer. Right. You don't know that there's opportunities to do expat assignments where an organization will pay for you and your family to live in a whole other country to do the work that you like to do. So I wanted to create a tool or a mechanism that provided this information for everybody, not only just executives who go through training and get those inside knowledges because of their exposure, but to any employee who just wants to have a great career, enjoy their career journey, and also have a place for HR folks to vent too. Because sometimes we need a little therapy to talk to as well. So
I was talking about mental health. It's important for us. We're humans as well, right? And so I know that everyone would love to have an advocate in HR. I have talked to many, many people over my last 30 years that's just looking for an advocate. And it was well said how you said, we're equipped. That's what our job is. This is what we come in to do, is help people feel fulfilled and start on to that next path. And so I have enjoyed listening to your podcast, and you really have shown up and shown out that you are really a friend in HR. So thank you for, giving back to that segment of individuals. It's about us growing as HR professionals, which is why I do my podcast, but it's also about giving back to the people that give us our jobs, that making meaningful for us every day.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for doing that. So now, here we go. My next question for you is, you've discussed various workplace policies and practices on your show. Which policy do you believe has the most significant impact on employee satisfaction, and why?
My answer may surprise you. I think, especially in the United States, maternity and paternity policies. Yeah. When a couple has a child, there's a lot of things happening. A lot of things going on. Their lives are about to change fundamentally for the rest of their lives. And one of the things that employees should not have to worry about is taking time off to have the baby, to recover, for parents, both parents, to bond with the child and come to grips with their new reality as a family unit. True. And if a mother or a father doesn't have to worry about that, then when they're at work, they can still focus on work. Absolutely. They're not divided amongst 15 other different things. You don't have as much guilt about going back to work if you have a solid maternity and paternity policy. Right. United States is one of those countries, one of the most backwards countries when it comes to our maternity policy, despite us being one of the superpowers.
Yes.
When you look at other countries around the world, when they hear that, mothers can get 12 weeks of unpaid through FMLA, that shocks them. They're like, really, in the United States? And so I think, that's one thing that's often overlooked in the U.S., where we have a lot of catch up to do because, strangely enough, some countries have figured out that if both parents are able to spend time with the child when it's first born, they may become a better human.
Absolutely.
So I think companies in the U.S. could definitely do a little bit more in terms of providing comprehensive maternity and paternity policies so that when that miracle does happen and they're having that child, being able to provide for that child and worrying about how they're going to get paid and being able to come back to work to resume their careers should not be one of those issues.
I would agree 100%. And on top of that, every time we double down on employee retention and recruiting and acquisition, like these are the keys, you're like the keys to the kingdom, right? This is how you retain that top talent where you don't watch it go out the door. Certainly tenure in a single organization has gotten shorter, but for the time that you have that insight and the intuition and the skills from those individuals, why not double down on those policies that build up families? And it's the American dream, family, right? And so like you said, how can we be here and not also find ourselves advocating for better policies? And I know that, from a government, a federal standpoint, as well as state by state, and then as employers, because we can voluntarily lean in even more, we can certainly make a difference. So bravo on that. I'm sure women and men around, the globe will be saying amen.
I hope so. One thing I'd like to add, if there's any decision makers listening, I was talking to a colleague of mine that she recently had a child and last year, and she was so nervous. She was so nervous about being able to take the appropriate time off. But their company had a great program. And even after she returned to work, there was a lot of flexibility. It was really about her output, not necessarily about when she did the work. And one of the things that she said was that, she's gotten offers to go to other companies that may pay more money. But she basically said that because this company made it so that she did not have to choose between being a mother and the profession that she loves, they earn so much loyalty. And she said it's going to take more than money to pull me away from this organization. And that's what I want companies to really learn is that, business objectives and career fulfillment don't have to be mutually exclusive.
That's correct.
Because when you take care of your people, those good employees will always take care of the organization.
Absolutely. Look at that. Look at that. All right, then. Well, Moy, this is getting juicy here. All right. So our next question for you is, so now, again, about your podcast, it often features practical tips for improving the workplace culture, which we're talking about right now. So what is one unconventional tip you've shared that your listeners found surprisingly effective?
I would probably say, based on the feedback that I've gotten, the fact that you can negotiate an offer. A lot of people, when they go through the interviewing process and the recruiting process, when that HR person calls them, they freeze up. They feel like they have to make a decision right then and there. And the fact that you actually have some power in this discussion, and reminding them of that power when you get to that point has been very emboldening to them based on the feedback. They always talk about, you go through the interview and you want the job and you've told colleagues and friends, next job I get, I need to make this amount of money, and you've been bragging about it. But then that HR person calls you and they offer you something that's 25% less. And you feel like if I dared negotiate, they're going to pull it back. They're going to take it away. And I was like, no, understand that by the time a company gets to the offer stage, they want it to be you.
They want it to be you.
Because they have invested time and money and resources in recruiting and interviewing. And for them to start over at this stage is counterproductive.
Absolutely.
And so the worst thing they can say is no, usually. And oh, by the way, if they do kind of do a 180 and cut a fool when you dare to negotiate, that's probably a red flag that may not be the organization that you want to join.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so just, I think the biggest thing that they found is that despite whatever stage of your career, whether it's negotiating an offer or anything, this is your career.
Yes.
This is your story.
Yes.
You have all the power in this to determine your story, and never give that up to anyone else, and never fail to negotiate.
Yeah,
because the worst thing they can say is no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things is I keep using the word advocacy, but also accountability. You're accountable to yourself. And I think as HR professionals and practitioners, I've seen we are doing a tremendous job to understand compensation, to understand the value of total rewards, right? And so there's been a lot of strides made in the last decade. Even people like you who behind the scenes, it's no longer let's just make an offer and see if that sticks, right? That we have practical tools and practices and surveying and benchmarking and things we do so that we can inject that equity in there and we can be fair. And so when we say we're fair and we say the compensation is fair, then we don't have to leave employees thinking, did I get a better deal than someone else or vice versa, right? And so I know HR is working hard to make sure that in those situations, it does turn out to be very amicable for both parties. And so I appreciate you and your fellow practitioners, even in your day-to-day job. I know you guys are working hard to do that as well, but we're accountable to ourselves. And we have to, if you can't advocate for yourself, then who else is going to do it?
Exactly.
Definitely. All right, so let's move on to our next question. So since you have mastered giving advice to our friends around the world, what advice would you give to our HR friends, not our employees, but to our HR friends based on and we were just talking about this, just 2024 alone probably comes with a lot of advice, but what advice would you give to us?
Well, first off, I'd never say I've mastered it. My wife would definitely say I haven't mastered giving advice, but I would probably say, remember why we do what we do. One of the big risks that we have as HR is sometimes we forget why we're here. We forget why companies pay all this money for HR professionals. The reason why we're here is to, again, make the most out of the human capital to help achieve company objectives.
That's right.
But to do that does not mean that we have to wall ourselves off. It does not mean that we become apart from those that we serve.
Yes.
We need to make sure that we don't take ourselves so seriously, and have a freaking sense of humor, right? And
I'll pay you later for that.
Oh yeah, slide under the table right there. But it's true.
I'm gonna pay you later. I promise y'all. No, but that was all organic for my audience. That was all organic. Okay, all right.
But just remember why we're here. It's okay to be approachable.
Yeah.
It's okay to have conversations. Yes, do we tend to be advocates for the organization? Yes, we are. But people are part of the organization. And so sometimes if we can make ourselves more approachable and we don't make HR this evil organization where people are scared to even go down that part of the hallway, you'd be surprised how better connected you can be with what's going on.
Absolutely.
If people trust you, if you make yourself an organization that can truly be business partners and not transactional professionals.
Absolutely.
When you make yourself approachable, not just to employees, but to managers, they will come and share a whole lot with you that actually may make your job a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
Because you'll find out more, you'll find out issues before they go nuclear.
That's right.
Because that happens so often.
Yes,
I mean, HR, we talk about it all the time. Like by the time HR finds out, there ain't much we can do about it.
Yeah, we're reacting.
Exactly. But yeah, just don't take yourself so seriously. Yes, what we do is very serious.
Yes.
We have a very, very important function within the organization. But don't forget the crux of what it is and the purpose that we're meant to serve as HR professionals.
That's right. Those humans are really important, and that's where human capital came from. And I will tell you is many times we find employees, they don't always understand open door policy, right? It's, we mean that, and we're trying to encourage that. And so you're exactly right. Just your demeanor could close the door to open door policy, right? And so many people will hesitate to come to us. And even in my book, I have one of my illustrations is HR police. How many times have we been called the HR police? I so don't want to be that person, right? And one of the most important things is we put out our employee engagement surveys. We are trying to build trust. We're trying to get people to not just anonymously, but feel like they can come to us and seek our guidance and support, whether we're advocating, whether we're mediating, whether we're offering resources and tools. This is where we want to be looked at as that team. And I know I worked for a company, and my son actually ended up working for the company, and it was very interesting. I did leave the company, and it was a wonderful company, gave me a lot of global experience. And then when my son started working for the company, and he told the people who I was, and he said, "That's your mom?" And he was like, "Now that's real HR."
Absolutely.
And my son came home and told me that, and I a tear dropped from my eye, right?
Aww.
And so at some point, if you can look back over your career, if you can just have a few of those moments, you know that you've made it, definitely. So thank you so much for giving that advice to our HR friends as well. So what I wanted to do on my last question is, now I've got to put these back on because this one's a meaty one, because these are hot topics right now. So the top 3 concerns employees in the workplace today have are inflation, compensation, mental health and well-being, as well as workplace flexibility. So what advice would you give HR practitioners on the importance of addressing employees' needs to maintain a motivated and productive workforce, given all of those top concerns? Not that you're running for office.
Oh, no, not at all. Not that I'm doing it at all. All those issues that you mentioned just now are really, that you hear about this stuff all the time, and they're massive issues. Yeah. Especially when you talk about things like inflation. Companies can't control the inflation. We have no impact on that. But step one is show employees that you care. Yeah. Right. Start with that. Show employees that you give a damn, that you care about this. Right. Doesn't mean you're going to have the answers to everything. Doesn't mean that every time the inflation rate goes up another 3 or 4%, that there's going to be another 3 or 4% added to your annual increase.
You mean you don't control that?
No, HR, yeah, you're right. Okay, everybody thinks HR controls it.
Checking.
No, not last I checked. Not last I checked. But step one is don't ignore the issues.
That's right.
Don't ignore the issues because they're real.
That's right.
You talk about mental health and mental well-being. I think doing more to take away the stigma around it, especially for men, because even nowadays, men says, "Oh, I have mental health." Guys tend to like, "Okay, man," and really they could be really hurting inside.
That's true.
And letting people feel okay that it's okay not to feel okay. That's fine. That's fine. We're not all Superman, Superwoman every single day. And we have to be okay with that. And we have to provide resources that helps people get back to that place of power and place of peace and that place of calm so they can be their best selves at the office. And so when you look at things like you said, like inflation and mental health and all the other items you mentioned, organizations can do a lot in terms of some of these benefits, whether it's through their EAP services, whether it's through mentorship discussions, or just even fellowship groups. I know there's still some diversity and inclusion programs at companies, and they have their employee resource groups. Find people to latch on to so you don't necessarily feel alone in all that. So there's a lot of things companies can do, but step one is just don't hide from them. That's right. Don't hide from those problems. Don't hide from those issues, and just show people that we care. We're addressing it as best we can. Doesn't mean we're going to be able to start making it rain when it comes to money because we still have a bottom line to reach. But that goes a long way with employees versus not mentioning it and putting your head in the sand and acting like it doesn't exist. So that'll probably be my best advice in terms of just kind of dealing with some of those big issues that you brought up.
Absolutely. We're all human. We're all human, and that a little bit of transparency goes a long way. And like you said, we're all trying to be financially responsible. We understand those situations because we have it in our personal lives, and so we look at our employers to be just as responsible. But I think, addressing it head on is where the trust, and that's where people will ride that wave, whether you're having the highs or the lows in the organization. That's when you really understand people who are dedicated and understand the objectives and understand your culture and your core values and your mission statement. That's when the people are staying, definitely. So I think that's some amazing advice. Okay, so now that you've given some great advice, what I want to do is switch gears just a little bit and have a little bit of fun. Although, I did write a book called HR, Where's Your Freaking Sense of Humor? So what I'd like to do is during our interview is always have a little bit of fun related to getting to know you. All right. So I'm going to do a quick rapid fire. We got 10 questions, one word answers.
Here we
Get
go.
ready.
Here we go.
Notice he sat up and took notice, y'all. All right. Okay, here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get ready with item number 1. And so just one word, but I'm sure if you want to elaborate a little bit, you can if you want to. But okay, number 1, Nike or New Balance?
I'm torn because I just started. I'm a new inductee to being a shoe head, so I buy Nikes now. But my military background, I always bought New Balance. But I'm gonna go ahead and say Nike.
Okay, all right. Y'all heard it here.
And by the way, I didn't get these questions in advance, so I have no idea.
He didn't have these in advance for my audience. He doesn't know. Okay, here's the next one: performance review or regular feedback session?
Regular feedback session.
High five.
Oh, we're gonna
high five.
Absolutely.
All right,
absolutely.
high five here. Okay, next one: Netflix or YouTube? Oh, see, I got him, y'all. I got him.
I'll say YouTube.
YouTube. Okay. All right. You want to elaborate?
No.
You can find anything.
Yeah, you can find anything on YouTube.
Okay. All right, y'all. Okay. Next one: LinkedIn or Instagram?
LinkedIn.
There we go. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see you.
I feel like sometimes I'm too old for Instagram.
Yeah, but I get on there.
I mean, we're on it. We're on it because you have a great presence. I mean, we're on it. But every time I'm on Instagram, I feel like I'm just too old to be there.
Look, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm a closet surfer. I'm surfing Instagram already. Definitely, I already did it this morning. So I'm just going. But I am LinkedIn with you, definitely. Okay, books or movies?
Books.
All right, comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Comedy all the way.
We're HR. We deal with drama every day.
We want to unplug.
I got enough drama. I can get drama all day. I need some comedy in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Some romantic comedy, definitely. Okay, next one. Superpower. Is it invisibility or flight?
Flight. I'm too much of a social person to want to be invisible.
To be invisible, you got to be seen.
But I'll tell you, I'm in Houston. That traffic. Sometimes if I could just launch up and just fly over this traffic, I'd be all over.
You'd be all over.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because between Houston and Dallas, that traffic is something
Plus, it would
else.
save me a lot on my flights.
Absolutely, yeah. And although
he
did fly here today, y'all, I appreciate him definitely. All right, next one. Party with Snoop Dogg or Jimmy Kimmel?
It depends on what I'm it depends what kind of mood I'm in. You know what? I'd probably Snoop.
With Snoop.
I'd probably with Snoop.
You gotta go with Snoop. Snoop in the Olympics, he was off
absolutely.
the chain. That was amazing. And just the diversity that went on of, sports and his involvement, and then his willingness to try something new. I didn't know he was afraid of horses, right? And so when he went out and then you had to bring your girl Martha Stewart in there, and it was just amazing. But I would have to do Snoop first. But I am loving me some Jimmy Kimmel.
I guarantee I'm going to have friends that are going to be like, really? That was a decision?
What? Yeah,
that was a decision. No, because I love Jimmy Kimmel. I love his comedy is great.
It's amazing.
He's one of my favorite comedians. So when you said it, I was like, you said Snoop, and I was like, oh, it's definitely Snoop.
And then I said Jimmy Kimmel.
You must have saw something on my profile that said that.
I never tell my ancient Chinese secrets.
Okay.
Definitely. All right, my next one, second to the last one. Night out on the town or a home cooked meal?
Home cooked meal.
Home cooked meal.
Home cooked meal.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
You said right answer. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, right answer. Definitely. He FaceTimed his wife right before he was like, let me tell you something. Definitely.
Love
okay.
you.
I know. I was like, look at the camera. All right. Last but not least, human or AI or both?
Both.
That's what I thought. Definitely. It's been an interesting time, isn't it?
It is. But I will tell you, people are worried about AI and the fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, I think, and you and I have been on some of the same similar panels. I think AI is just one of those the next innovation. People thought when we got rid of horse and buggies, right, and went to the Industrial Revolution that it was going to be a thing. But I think AI is just going to be a next massive tool to tap into the potential of the average human and be able to focus on more creative things. So.
Absolutely. Wow. I hope you enjoyed that. That was incredible.
That was tough,
incredible.
though. That was tough. I wasn't ready.
You did good. You can stop sweating. Definitely. So definitely. So now I want to kind of wrap up the show a little bit, but first we want to say thank you so much for coming and joining us and joining me on this stage. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And again, it's really important. We were talking about advice to our HR friends and to employees. And that advice is that we need to give people like my guests their flowers while they're with us. And always remember to be out there advocating for people and humans. So with that said, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm going to wrap us up on some hot topics. And if you want to jump in on some hot topics, let me know. Definitely. Just give me the thumbs up here. So we're going to switch over. So one of the things I promised this audience is that I would always share hot topics. And so with that said, the first thing I want to do is tell you about some upcoming events and some great reads that I have going on. And so number one, my next freaking amazing podcast guest will be none other than Bria Foston, who will join us on the stage, and she is going to be talking about all things global benefits. So I am so excited, and you don't want to miss that. And so that's going to be my next episode 4. And I'm going to have to throw the gauntlet out and say, now I had this other guest that was on from Houston, and she's probably going to come locked and loaded. So looking forward to having Bria join us. Next, I'm proud to share that I am going to be a moderator for the Women's Health Symposium on October 17th. It's going to be hosted by the Dallas-Fort Worth Business Group on Health. So go out to dfwbgh.org to register for that one-day event. Again, October 17th, I'm going to be moderating one of those sessions. And we know, as we said, these are some really hot topics with women's health going on. And so men and women could do good to participate in this particular event. Now, we just said LinkedIn versus Instagram, and we chose LinkedIn. So what I want you to do is go on over right now to LinkedIn, hit up my guest, his profile, which will have his information on my social page here as we conclude the show, but go over to my page. I did a feature on what are you reading? And I'm reading 2 great books right now. I just finished up on Making Work Human. And then the one I'm working on right now is Management Mess to Leadership Success. And I will keep doing these short features just for you, HR practitioners and all of those amazing humans out there who want to get the cliff notes of each one of those books and recommendations. So head on over to my LinkedIn page, go to the features, head over to Nsane's page as well, and hit up his My Friend in HR podcast as well. And then finally, the HR Southwest Conference is being held on October 13th through the 16th. At the Fort Worth Convention Center right here in Dallas, and it's being coined the Don't Miss event of the fall season. So lots of things going on. I'm excited. We're all excited. So please, please, please mark your calendars. So now that all my time has come to an end, I know that I have had an amazing time. It was a fun time with my guests. Thank you, Mr. Courteny, for coming. I can't tell you how much you've poured into us, and I've watched and listened to all of your episodes, and so I'm inviting you, my guests, to do the same. And remember, the most important thing for us who are doing these podcasts, pouring ourselves into this, is to like, to share, to subscribe to all our socials, even Instagram. And remember, we are all freaking amazing humans. Bye for now. I'll see you next episode.